Hello everybody, welcome to the United Stand. Michael Carrick as the next Manchester United manager. To some United fans, this sounds like a logical, respectable thing to do. To some United fans, it sounds like an absolute nightmare. But this isn't about Michael Carrick, the player. This is not about Thomas Tuchel. This is not about going down the road of Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. This is about assessing Michael Carrick and his suitability for the job. And over the next half an hour or so, I want your comments on it. But more importantly, I've got 5 reasons why it's a positive and why it's a negative. And of course, a lot of people will say, well, it's too soon to consider Michael Carrick. I completely disagree with this. This assessment has to be a learning process from day one, including Man City, including Arsenal, including how we tactically set up for those games, how many games we win. Learn how the players react, and then look for the summer to make the right decision. I think it's the right time to be assessing it. I don't think as fans we should be, stopped from having that conversation. I think as the owners, they need to be assessing, they need to be thinking, and in my opinion, they shouldn't be making any decision until they've spoken to other possibilities at the end of the season. But there are positives to Michael Carrick. I think to start off with, when you look at Manchester United and the destabilisation of the last few years, you've got a high IQ player with a low ego who clearly demands respect of the players and is certainly going to be playing a style of football that is entrenched in Manchester United's DNA. And I also think because of that low ego, he will not be a destabilising factor to the board as a head coach. They can sell and give whoever he wants. And also, I don't think his ego is going to get in the way of wanting total control and everything out of respect of the club. Now, some people might say that's a negative, but in the vision that the club have, and many of us don't want that vision, but in the vision of the club that they have, and the reality of the situation that nobody's been able to remove the Glazers for 20 years, we might not agree with their vision, but it's one we're probably going to have to put up with. Their vision is a long-term rebuild over many years in the process that they are setting up in front of us, which is an ownership model where they decide what happens and a coach gets on with it. Well, Michael Carrick probably fits that quite well. It's just whether you see that as a positive or a negative. I also think that the anti-Ollie argument is somewhat, you can flip it as a positive and a negative. I think a lot of people, myself included, are very worried about Solskjaer and the interim and the relationship he had with Carrick and going down that route again. But let's not forget, if you actually analyse Michael Carrick and what he's done in a short period of time at Manchester United, but more importantly, what he's done at Middlesbrough, this is somebody that went off and did very, very well in his first season at Middlesbrough. He's gone off and done the apprenticeship in the Championship. And yes, ultimately it ended up with the sack, but there was a lot of good times there. Tactically, Middlesbrough are always praised for good football. They created a lot of chances. I think, what's his name? Chuba Akpom is a brilliant example. I mean, look, people talk about Hayden Hackney and Morgan Rogers, but I think when you look at Chuba Akpom, who's no longer at Middlesbrough now, I think he went to Ajax and now he's at Ipswich. This was a player that was considered a flop. Michael Carrick basically adjusted his position, and I think he scored 28 goals in all competitions. And he himself, and I wrote this down, said that he credited Michael Carrick as the manager he'd been dreaming of, highlighting a massive improvement in his form and confidence when Michael Carrick was at Middlesbrough. So look, you think about people like Mainu, you think about people like Dorgu, you think about people like Yoro. There is something about Michael Carrick that's not just parachute somebody into the job because there's nobody else about. There could be a real positive angle to bringing Carrick in. Of course, he understands the United DNA as well. And that DNA must surely be a back four. That must surely be promoting youth. That must surely be entertaining football. And all of those things Michael Carrick would be very, very suitable for. So I think there are numerous positives to bringing Michael Carrick in, and everything I've just mentioned in there, I think is completely fair to do that. I also took another couple of notes as well. I think when you're thinking about a rebuild, then somebody that understands what Manchester United's all about, good and bad, is probably quite good. Whereas a manager that doesn't know anything about Manchester United could be perceived as being quite negative. So I think there are a number of positives there as to why you might consider Michael Carrick. But what about the negatives? So And I want you to give me yours, because this is just something I've been chewing the fat on today, and I think it's not a bad marker in the sand to say this now and keep reviewing it over the next few weeks and months, because you can't just say no Michael Carrick, no Michael Carrick, no Michael Carrick. I think over the last few minutes there's many more, but there's a multitude of positives. He's a safe pair of hands. You know, he knows the club, like I say. He's not egotistical. He's high IQ. He's calm at a time where we need probably calm. So look, ultimately, there are many positives to it. The negatives, or the reasons not to do it, let's put it that way, it's ridiculously early. You talk about Middlesbrough, you talk about the improvements of players there. Michael Carrick has got absolutely no experience, apart from a handful of games for Manchester United, on high elite coaching. There is probably plenty of coaches like Kieran McKenna, who has managed well in League One and the Championship, and also in the Premier League, who is better equipped to manage Manchester United. If Michael Carrick can be Manchester United manager, then surely Kieran McKenna is instantly a better choice, considering he spent a lot of time at Manchester United, has all the attributes Carrick has, and has more experience. So if Michael Carrick's an option, why is Kieran McKenna not an option? He's managed in the Premier League. He's been at Manchester United. He plays a good brand of football, so you could say that as well. I also think Manchester United need, as much as possible, a sure thing rather than another gamble. So Michael Carrick's a gamble. Could end up like Ollie, could end up like Sir Alex, could end up like Jose, could end up like Ten Hag. Manchester United need a sure thing. They don't need another gamble. Also, how does this impact Bruno Fernandes? Bruno Fernandes is absolutely essential to Manchester United's future. If Bruno Fernandes doesn't fancy another gamble and therefore leaves in the summer, but if you bring in a Luis Enrique or a Thomas Tuchel, Bruno says, I fancy that, that has to be a factor as well. And maybe people don't want to talk about that, but I think it is a factor. Bruno Fernandes will make his decision after the World Cup. If he sees Michael Carrick, he might go, with all due respect, Carrick's fantastic, but I played under Carrick for 3 years. I don't think that's going to take Man United back to the top. Good luck on your 5-year project. I've only got 2 years, so I want it now. So that could be an interesting thing as well. I also think we are repeating past mistakes potentially by going with Michael Carrick, as I said with Solskjaer. It's unfair to say that they're similar, but in many ways it's an ex-legend getting a job without much of a CV on a handful of good results with a team that's basically treating him like a supply teacher. It's fun. It's a happy time. Everybody's excited. But when it comes to work, will the light switch go off? And will it be too late once the contract's been signed? The issue with Ollie was he did really, really well on a short period of time, and it looked like it was going to be great. You give him the contract and the cracks start to appear. But once you've given him the contract, you have to stick with him, even though you've seen your mistake. And we probably stuck with Solskjaer for too long. Also, can Michael Carrick handle the pressure of Manchester United? Manchester United is an easy club to run when everything's going well. And Michael Carrick has experienced that in the 5 games he's managed across 2 interims. But Man United will lose games. What happens when Manchester United lose 4-1 to Brentford at Brentford? What happens to Manchester United when Pep wipes his arse with us at the Etihad? What happens to Michael Carrick when it's not, it's Carrick, and it's, what the hell's going on here? Can he deal with the pressure? We've never seen the pressure. We need to see the pressure. And I think that leads into the other point as well. This is ridiculously early. This is a honeymoon. Tactically, how is Michael Carrick setting Manchester United up? Virtually every game he's played has been against teams better than us, where you have to be compact and you have to be deep. What about the teams where we have to be on the front foot, where we have to open up a bit, when that midfield opens up a bit? What happens then? We haven't seen enough of what Michael Carrick can do tactically, because you've got to be adaptable. Sometimes you've got to park the bus. Sometimes you've got to counter. Sometimes you've got to go all out attack. Sometimes you're going to have 40% possession. Sometimes you're going to have 70. How are we going to perform in those different things? We don't know that yet. We don't know how he's going to deal with defeats. We don't know how he's going to deal with injury crisis. We don't know how he's going to deal with people like Wilcox and Barada ahead of him, who have ridiculously got more experience than him in the Premier League. Those two need reining in. Is Michael Carrick capable of doing that? Is he inexperienced? So I think that's something else to consider as well. And also, I think that if we're being completely honest, and I go back to the other point, It's the fear. And this is my own one. This is the fear. It's the fear of walking into the toy shop and your parents saying, choose whatever Lego set you want. And you walk up and you go, will I get the castle? Will I get the spaceship? Will I get the Star Wars Lego? Will I get the Marvel Lego? You know, what will I get? And you take a pick and you get it home. You don't like building it and you wish you'd got something else. But it's too late. You've made your choice. And I think with Michael Carrick, it feels like this choice will have to be made before we interview other people. It doesn't feel to me as logical as it is that we would go, well done, Michael, you've won every game and you've qualified for us for the Champions League. We're now going to wait 3 months because basically we'll know we're in the Champions League in early May. Potentially we will. So it's early May and people are going, give it to Carrick so we can go and buy some players. Do you really think the club are going to go, thanks, Michael, well done. You are definitely got the X factor and you're definitely on our final list. But we're now going to spend the next 2 months interviewing people, some of which are at the World Cup. So Pochettino and Tuchel, we can't even talk to them really until mid-July. So go off and enjoy your holidays. From Michael Carrick's point of view as well, I've just done really well for Manchester United. And this is a great point. I've just done really well for Manchester United. And Man United say, it could be you. But we're going to take 2 months to interview other people. Michael Carrick might go, I've just qualified you for the Champions League. I've won loads of games. And Crystal Palace wants me to have the job. I'm going to take it. Oh. It's you, Carrick, you know? And this is what I mean. That worries me. That's the fear, is that you give it to Carrick because you've got to make a quick choice. When realistically, if that's the wrong choice, no Enrique, no Glasner, no De Zerbi, no Pochettino, no Tuchel, no Nagelsmann. It's off the table because you've took the decision on Carrick. And I think that's why you can talk about it today, you can talk about it tomorrow, you can talk about it in April, and you can talk about it in May. Because I don't think this decision is going to be the decision I want, in the sense that we'd love to have you, Carrick, but we're going to interview Tuchel, Nagelsmann, Enrique, and we're going to choose the best. I don't think we're going to be in a position to do that. I think we're going to have to jump into the water without knowing what's in it. And you know what? It could be you surface up in a party, everybody's great, and there's a pina colada. It could be you jump in and it's a big bloody shark. We don't know. And I think that's a great point, because if we ask Carrick to wait and he's done well, he might not wait because there might be good options for him. And that's it's the fear for me, to be honest. A well-run club would start their manager search now, even with an interim in place. They would not wait until the summer to see how the interim does. And I think this is a great point as well, Ian. There are positives and negatives, and I'm sure this is going to be a video that many people watch later and leave their comments on. But I think the parameters of what needs to be done are absolutely that. You have to be interviewing people now. You've got to be sounding people out now. I mean, look, people say you can't do it, they're under contract. You bloody well can. Barada, Ashworth, we know we spoke to them before they got the bloody job. Yeah, we had to pay for it, but we know we spoke to them. We should be sounding out. I mean, for example, if you want Luis Enrique as Man United manager, what are you going to do? Carrick, you've done really well. We're going to go and talk to Louis now. Well, how's about this? How's about you go, Luis Enrique, I know you're a PSG manager. Are you interested in the job at Manchester United? Yes, I am. I'd bloody love it. Okay, let me get in contact with your agent. What's the sort of wage you'd want? It would be this. Hypothetically, Louis, what would you be looking to do at Man United if you got the job? I'd want $500 million. Okay, you're out. No, I meant $500,000. Okay, you're in. Okay, PSG, roughly what's the release clause? You can figure that deal out and know that he wants it. What about Thomas Tuchel? I know you're busy with the World Cup, Thomas. I know you're busy. You've said it about 10 times. But would you want the Man United job after the World Cup, or do you want the England job? Nah, I've had enough. I've had enough of England. I want the Man United job, but I'm focused on this. Good. Remember the chat we had with you before? Similar terms? Yeah, great. Okay. And, okay, we'll send you an email about players. You do need to be doing that now. You do need to be doing that now. I'll be stunned if Man United aren't doing that now. But you never know with Man United. They might be going, let's see how Carrick goes, because really he's cheap. And if he does really bad, we'll have to start interviewing people. But we should do that. It's the same as signing players, isn't it? Elliot Anderson, you can't just say, we'll talk to him at the end of July. So it's a great point. We do need to do that. When does patience become delusion, says Noah. Yeah, I don't know what the context of that is because it's so wide-reaching. But yeah, you'd have to give us a little bit more about that. Goldbridge says, the next appointment this board makes will be their make or break moment. They won't sack him no matter how bad things get for self-preservation reasons. If we don't get it right, we'll be majorly fucked. I think this is a great point as well. And it all fits in. Some great comments coming in. Give us yours. Basically, Grave says, I want to get into as many comments as I can. I mean, I've given you like 5 positives and 5 reasons maybe why not, but I think Goldbridge is absolutely correct. And I think there is a bit of analysis here that's really, really important. There is no doubt that Sir Jim Radcliffe won't remove Barada and Wilcox, even though they're probably shit at their job, because it reflects badly on him. There is no doubt when Sir Jim Radcliffe said 3 years for Amram, he meant it. The only reason Amram's not in a job is because he forced himself out of it, because he saw a situation he didn't like and had a pop at Wilcox and made it a situation where it was him or Wilcox. So they had to sack one, and they went with the manager's always the easiest to do. If Ruben Amram had sat there and been a good boy and done the back four and never said anything, he'd be Man United manager for the next 2 years. But obviously he was never going to do that. So the minute Man United bring a coach in that's not going to cause any problems, they won't sack him. They will, I agree with Goldbridge, they'll just stick it out stubbornly. This show would be which 5 managers should we consider in the summer? If it wasn't for 2 exceptional games under exceptional circumstances, patience, says Nick. Yeah, and look, Nick, I intend to do that over the coming months. We did it when the last days of Ten Hag. We did it when Rangnick was here. We were talking about managers, and I think we as fans have to do that. Unless you're rigid that it's got to be Carrick. I think the club can do what they want, but I think we as fans have to be open to Pochettino, Nagelsmann, and you have to look at it and go, would this be right for us? A well-run club would start. Done that one from Ian Tracy. Thank you so much. Asking Bruno who his preference as a manager is would be a big mistake. We are not building the team under his captaincy. He'll be gone in 2 years, says Sid. But I still think it's a factor, Sid, and it was my factor. I think Bruno Fernandes is a really important player at Manchester United. He's not in the midfield. Cheerio, got no impact. But as a number 10, I think he's irreplaceable. And if Bruno Fernandes says, I'm not staying if it's Michael Carrick, but if it's Luis Enrique, I will stay. You don't have to agree. You just have to take it on board. You might go, well, we don't want Luis Enrique because he's very expensive. We want Michael Carrick, but we'll lose Bruno as part of that process. What I'm saying is, if I'm the owner of the football club and I have that information, I would factor it in. Now, if I was the owner of the football club and Luis Enrique wanted the job, I'd bloody get Luis Enrique, you know. But it helps to know. Look, you wouldn't go up to Bruno Fernandes if he's happily sat there in a 5-year deal and go, what do you want? But the fact is, he's publicly going to make his mind up in the summer. We know that. So he's probably leaning towards the door, I would say. I don't think he's impressed with the ownership. He said that in November. He's probably fed up of all the projects, loves the club, probably fed up with the ownership. If I'm the owner and I want to keep him, and I do, I would factor that in. I wouldn't do what Bruno wants, but I'd be like, it would be a factor out of many. The big picture is our board is preying on a miracle, says Andre. They act like gamblers thinking they can invest the least and get the highest returns. Can we really judge if Carrick is the guy based on how little backing he's got? I think whatever happens, and when I was doing my pros and cons for Carrick, and I'd love people, if you're not watching live or if you are watching live, to get in the comments and list 3 or 4 pros and cons for you. There is no definitive answer to this. I just think it's a conversation we have to have. And it's an ongoing one. And it's an intelligent one. And, you know, some people will tune into the video and go, oh, we're not talking about Cole Palmer. I'm not wasting my time on that. Well, good. You know, everybody has their own thing, but I think this is really important. The definitive answer is there can't be an answer at the moment. It's way too soon. We don't know tactically how he's going to set up. We don't know how he will react to pressure. We don't know whether this is just interim, you know, holiday and the players are treating him like a supply teacher and just enjoying it. But when the hard work stops, they'll down tools again. We don't know anything about this. We also know his suitability as a low ego, high IQ person who knows Man United's DNA, who can get the best out of players, who can simplify things and, you know, get his points across in a very simple way. These are positives. He's not going to kick up a fuss. He's not going to be the big I am. He's going to be, you know, not going to cause any issues or disruption. That can be a positive, that can be a negative. So, look, we know a lot of the traits. However, if they give Carrick the job, even the most staunch give Carrick the job today person cannot sit here and say it's not a huge risk. It's a huge risk. It's a huge risk. But it could be a huge risk the other way. You might say no to Carrick, go with another manager, they don't get backed or they don't settle in well, and then everyone goes, well, we should have given it to Carrick. Look, remember what I said in December. Whatever happens, give Amorim until the end of the season. And people were like, no, sack him now, sack him now. And I was like, I don't like interims. I specifically remember saying it on numerous shows in December and November. I don't want another interim. I don't want another interim. And people are like, wow, it's better than this. And I'm like, it's not. It isn't. Because the interim is never an interim. The minute they come in, they are considered, they're number one in the line for the job. They're not an interim. They're the first candidate for the job. If you come in as Man United's interim, and this is why Solskjaer wanted it, and this is why I didn't want Solskjaer to get it. The reason Solskjaer wanted it is because he knew you're an interim and you're gone in the summer. He knew the reality is, as an interim, you're at the front of the queue to lose the job. It's yours to lose as an interim every single time. And we've seen it at Spurs, we've seen it at Chelsea. If you're the interim, it's your job to lose. And although everyone goes, no, it's only an interim till the summer and then he's gone no matter what, it's never the case. So that's why I wanted Amorim to get to the summer. Because if Amorim had managed till the summer, then you're in a position where you can go, Amorim's gone. Hello, Oliver Glasner. Hello, De Zerbi. Hello, Nagelsmann. Do you want the job? There's no interim. You're going straight in to the pool that you want to go into. Which is why I think Liverpool with Slot are making a mistake. But in a way, the long game might be a good idea because when Liverpool sack Slot in the summer, if they do, they go straight for a manager. If they sack Slot now and they give it to Gerrard, oh my God. Imagine if Gerrard wins a few games. Give it to Gerrard, and then you've got that scenario. Diouf from West Ham is a great deal opinion, says Emil. I've not heard anything about it. Great job in picking the two best Champions League games. PSG in full flow against Newcastle and McTominay's insane aura. I'm looking forward to the Champions League tonight. Lots of games. We'll be keeping an eye on that. We're live on That's Football for 8 o'clock kickoffs. Looking forward to it. Make sure you tune in. Mike JW says, keep your questions coming in. I want to get your thoughts on this. Also, just on a bit of news, a few people saying, what about Raheem Sterling to Manchester United? I don't know what the relationship is with... I mean, imagine Steve Holland likes him because he played with him. He was his coach with Southgate. So that might be a connection. I don't know about Carrick and Raheem Sterling. I've got to admit, when I saw Chelsea had released him, I did think, would Man United go there? I did. I did think, will Man United go there? I would hope not. I mean, the fall off of Sterling is incredible. He's also played for Liverpool, Man City and Chelsea and Arsenal. I mean, what's he trying to do? The full house. He's only got Spurs to do. So, look, I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't do it. And he wouldn't be cheap either. But with Man United, never say never. Like, you just never know. But I've got to be honest, as soon as I saw he'd been released, I did think, would Man United go there? For me, I don't think so. Yeah, I don't think so. Mike JW says, evening legends. I won't be around much for some time due to my wife going back in hospital tomorrow for an op. Look after each other and be well. Well, best of luck to your wife, mate. And we'll hopefully see you soon or hear from you soon. Take care to you and your family. Be ready next year, same time this month. Carrick out, says John. And Daniel Thompson says, I hope you're well, Mark, and United stand. Hope you've had a good day. Busy day. Very, very busy day today. But look, I love this type of video. You know what? I was going to do it as a pre-record. I was going to do it as a pre-record for 15 minutes, and it probably would have done really well. But I resist pre-records as much as possible because I love I don't like to be scripted. I also like to say something and then one of you or somebody to come back and expand the conversation. I trust our board to get a new manager in the summer than they don't support him completely, sack him, and Carrick is back as an interim again, says Mojo. Bring Pulisic in for Dorgu, says Alex. Where have you been, Alex? That's a bit late. Matt Casey Art says, Mark, top managers are not going to take orders from the clowns above. Who is the best of the rest? Who else would you take over Carrick? Well, look, this is a good question. It's a very good question, and I was going to bring this in. So, look, it's a shame there isn't some instant AI where I could do this, but I've got a list of managers here, and I'm going to go through it. So next Manchester United manager, Carrick or Glasner? Carrick or De Zerbi? Carrick or Southgate? Carrick or Nagelsmann or Enrique or Tuchel? Enrique or Ancelotti? Enrique. So basically, is there anybody I would take over him? Enrique or Conte? Now this is new. This is niche. I probably am quite... You only live once. And there's just something about Conte and Man United that I keep circling back about. We'll never do it. But you look at what Conte's done with Rasmus. You look at what he's done with McTominay. You look at what he's done in the Premier League. I just think there's something about Conte. But Enrique's style of football would be better. I completely agree. So look, it's a great question because... This is as I say, I don't agree with Roy Keane that under no circumstances should Michael Carrick get the job because it's too absolute. There is a selection of managers that I would go for over Carrick, and there are a selection of managers I'd go for Carrick for over them. Now, I'm not saying it's the right choice to go for Carrick over De Zerbi or Glasner or Iraola. They've all got better CVs than him, admittedly. I just don't think they're ever going to do well at Man United. In De Zerbi, I can see Ten Hag. In Glasner and Iraola, I can see Van Gaal, Moyes. I can see them failing before they've even started. And they might do slightly better than Carrick, but I don't think they do that much better than Carrick. And look, as I say, we're judging Carrick on a handful of games in Middlesbrough. He could be absolutely shit. But I don't think De Zerbi, Glasner, Iraola are the right managers for Man United, so I'd rather stick with what we've got. However, if it's Enrique, Conte, Nagelsmann, Tuchel, Ancelotti, every day of the week over Carrick. And that answers a question, and you should play that game with yourself. List the managers and play the game. Carrick or that and work your way down. Winner stays on. Because Man United should do that. Man United's board should do that. Because... that's the game we're playing. And it's not everybody over Carrick for me. It's just there is a high echelon group of managers that I think we should be going for over Carrick. Somebody said Unai Emery. I purposely didn't put Unai Emery in because he won't take the job, but I'd probably put Unai Emery over everybody apart from Enrique and Conte, in my opinion. Yeah. Chelsea used to be the masters of the successful interim. They always seem to win things. Hiddink and Rafa both won trophies but still left in the summer. Avram Grant, remember him? He was their manager in the Champions League final in 2008, wasn't he? Imagine this though, Mark. Let's say we have a good run with Carrick and the board picks another manager. How many fans will bring back Carrick? It's a great deal of pressure. Food for thought, says Andre. But this is great. This is great, Andre, because this is the point. Some people go, it's too early to talk about it. And then some people go, give him the job, tell him what he wants. Those opinions are extreme opinions. They're too early. But the conversation can't be, let's just park it till April. We have to have the conversation, and you have to, it's been very important and it's been very therapeutic for me to list it down, the pros and the cons. Because some of the pros are really encouraging. And then some of the cons are really reality bites. So, as I said, the reality is, if they keep him, it's a huge risk. And if they get rid of him, it's got to be the right guy. I don't want Carrick to go and De Zerbi to come in. I want Carrick to go and Conte to come in, or Emery, or Luis Enrique, or Ancelotti, or Tuchel. So, it is layered, the conversation, regardless. And it's also not easy. It's really not easy. And this is why I don't like interims. Because we're not just fans on this community, are we? We talk about transfers, we talk about players, we talk about managers. We're almost fantasy owners of the club, which is what fandom is, really. And I can take off my I can't stand these owners hat put it on the table and go, this situation's shit. But they've put themselves into it. If I was Sir Jim Ratcliffe, if he's not acknowledged it, I'd be fuming with Wilcox. I'd be like, why couldn't you keep your mouth shut? Why did you get into my ear about back fours and not spending in January? Why couldn't you keep your fucking mouth shut till the end of May? You've done it again, haven't you? You've opened that. You've started with that. I wish you'd stayed at fucking Blackburn, you knobhead. But that's what I'd be thinking as an owner. I'd be like, you've put us in this bloody situation, haven't you? We've got an interim who's doing really well again, and we're going to have to choose that interim, or we're going to have to interview good managers in the summer. What are we supposed to do? We're damned if we do and we're damned if we don't. If Carrick does well, we've got to give him the job. But if we give him the job and he does shit, we're going to look right idiots for not interviewing all the good candidates. This is why I don't like interim coaches. I don't. It puts you in a position that you can't control. You're out of control with an interim. You're out of control. They can say, no matter what, we're not going to give him the job, but you know what happens. Oh, he's at the wheel. You know, if we win a load of games, they won't be able to control this situation. So this is why I don't like interims. You lose control. Whereas if you keep your manager till the summer and you sack them, you've got total control. And I think that's the inexperience of Ineos and the Glazers again, is that they just don't get football. They don't. Maybe their intent is to interview a load of managers in the summer no matter what, but they won't be able to control that. So Jim Radcliffe's intent in October was to give Amrim 3 years, and he said it publicly. Mistake number one, never say something publicly that you're going to change your mind on 3 months later. And at the time, he would have thought that, but it just shows you can't trust them and they don't know what they're doing. In October, this manager's got 3 years, we're in for the long build. 3 months later, he's sacked. Well, I didn't know he was going to fall out with Jason. Well, you shouldn't have said 3 years then, should you? In January, we're going to do a process in the summer. We're going to interview everybody. In April, Carrick's got the job. Well, we didn't know he was going to do well. Yeah, because you keep putting yourselves in situations where you can't control the story. And with an interim, you can't control it. It's in the hand. Like I say, the interim is at the front of the queue. They can only lose the job. I agree with I'm a Red. I think Carrick will get the job. Done that one. Thank you. Imagine your top 5 talking orders from Wilcox, says Matt Casey. Imagine your top 5 taking orders from Wilcox, says Matt Casey. Yeah. I mean, Isaac says Carrick sucks. The Tuchel talk always surprised me, considering at Dortmund, PSG, Chelsea and Bayern he never stayed more than 2 seasons due to fighting with the board. I think this is great. Thank you, Goldbridge. Ray Carl says the risk of Carrick is building a team which is different from just an interim. Will this board build a team for Carrick, and does that have that experience? Well, they won't build a team for Carrick, Ray, because they'll build the team they think. Like Baleba was for Amorim and will be given to the next manager. That's a coincidence, isn't it? Ruben Amorim wanted Baleba and the new manager that's not even there wants Baleba. Well, that's not the case, is it? The board are choosing Baleba for the next manager, no matter what. So you're being given things as a coach that you might not want, you have to work with, like Sesko for Amorim. Chelsea done that one as well. But look, going back to this point here I think this is going to be a very big thing. Who wants to work with Jason Wilcox? Luis Enrique is very unlikely to go for the job, isn't he? He's not desperate to take the Man United job. We'd have to beg him. United will go for a beggar. And what I mean by that, I don't mean a literal beggar. I think they'll go for somebody who needs the United job more than we need them. And what we actually should go for is somebody we need more than they need us. Because that's a top-level coach. We should be persuading top-level coaches. We shouldn't be going for coaches who are trying to persuade us. And I think they will go for that. Welcome. Thank you for being a member for 39 months, Sean Keane. There's a reason we sign kids, buys them time and money, says Mario Franco. And John says, Carrick knows the club from the inside out, from the top to bottom, like he picks Manu right away. Another manager will be like Ten Hag, Ruben, and knows it all. That's very, very, very broad-strokingly wrong, but it's an opinion. I mean, you don't know that. Luis Enrique promotes youth at PSG. Luis Enrique buys in top talent, develops talent, plays a very good brand of football. Was at Barcelona, went to PSG, won them the Champions League. I mean, I think his track record is elite. And you know what worries me as well? Just this is why you have to do it live. What worries me is we give the job to Michael Carrick and Luis Enrique goes to Man City. Is Michael Carrick going to take Manchester United to the Premier League title when Man City have got Luis Enrique and Arsenal have got Mikel Arteta and massive squads and massive monies? I want a manager that has the potential and drive and ability to take us to the promised land. I don't want a manager that's just going to flirt with fourth for the next 5 years, which I think is a fair point. I'm doing English teams on the Champions League, mate. Nothing's going to stop me do that, Isaac. Would you support someone from Saudi buying us? They could get rid of our debts, says Dem. Look, judge me however you want, but I wanted Qatar over Sir Jim. I said it. I did. There was 2 horses in the race, and I preferred that horse. To me, it didn't matter where it was from. It would have cleared the debt, and it would have pumped money into the club. And that moral argument is all fine and well, but look at the state of the football club. And also, what is your moral argument? Qatar, the Glazers, you know, there's certainly uncovering on both that you'd go, oh, I don't know whether I'm sure about that. So I always found it a little bit hypocritical. I think a lot of people got sold on local lad, Man United fan from Manchester. But has that been evidenced? No. I think United are at a point now where you'd be foolish to turn down billionaire owners that want to take us back to the top, you know? I do. Fantastic show tonight. Something a little bit different. Not much topical in there. Not many likes on the video, actually. Okay. But no, I don't give a shit. Please do smash a like on the video. I just felt I wanted to do that. And I think it's been really useful. As I said, I'm actually quite relaxed. Terry was messaging me the other day saying, I bet you're really stressed about Carrick getting the job. I said, no, I'm not. I went high-pitched as well, which means I am. No, I'm not. I am relaxed about the situation. I'm really enjoying the fact that we're going to be in the Champions League by the looks of it. It's so important. I'm fed up of doing That's Football Champions League watch-alongs. I want Man United Champions League watch-alongs on the United stand. That would be nice next Christmas, wouldn't it? So yeah, that's a positive. Beating Liverpool and Arsenal and Man City. Well, we did beat Liverpool. Thanks, Amrim. Has been positive this season. And there are pros and cons. And I'm quite comfortable with that because whatever we do, there's going to be a big risk. I just think our board aren't in control of this conversation. They might think they are. I don't think they are. This is Carrick's job to lose. And whether they think they're interviewing people in the summer or not, I think they'll end up looking like fools again when they give Carrick the job without interviewing other people because they said that's what they were going to do. So let's see what happens. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to get yourselves over to That's Football. I'm going to be live there in about 5 minutes. Stay safe, take care, and I'll see you on the morning show at 10 a.m. Thanks for watching.